Chapter 21:10. To put it bluntly, Lu Ming was using laws now as if he was using brute force. He did not unleash the wonders of laws at all. He heard Uncle Kong say that after reaching martial emperor, one could comprehend many kinds of laws. Different people would naturally have great differences in the laws they comprehended. The fusion of different laws would also give rise to different divine abilities. Those divine abilities contained several different kinds of laws, and their power was shocking. It was not something that a single law divine ability could compare to. A single law divine ability could only be considered a low-level divine ability. Some laws contained many kinds of divine abilities, and their power was simply earth-shattering. Above martial emperor, there were some ancient scriptures that had corresponding records. However, those ancient scriptures were shockingly valuable. There's only a single law divine ability in the chaos scripture. That's not right. Lu Ming thought of the chaos scripture. He guessed that the chaos scripture he obtained was incomplete. Logically speaking, the chaos scripture was the inheritance left behind by the chaos emperor. It definitely did not only have low-level divine abilities. It definitely had different laws and divine abilities that fused with the chaos law. Perhaps, the chaos scripture I obtained is really incomplete. Lu Ming pondered. He did not have the corresponding divine ability in his hands, so he could only rely on himself to explore. In the following time, he focused on exploring the use of fusion between different laws. Time passed very quickly. 2 years were almost up. After several months of exploration, Lu Ming finally had some gains. He discovered that it was too difficult to comprehend any divine ability between the chaos law and the death law. It was not just a saying that the strongest laws were incompatible. However, Lu Ming had created 2 different types of divine powers. Their powers were astonishing. They were respectively the fusion of the chaos law, the array path law, the devour law, and the strength law to create a divine ability. Lu Ming named it Chaos Hammer. When using this move, he could condense a giant hammer with astonishing power. In addition, with the fusion of the death law, the devour law, the array path law, and the strength law, he created a divine ability. Lu Ming named it Death Sword. After using it, it formed a battle sword that cut through everything. Of course, this was only a preliminary comprehension. The power of the various laws was not fully unleashed. To be able to reach this step in such a short time, Lu Ming's comprehension was already extremely terrifying. As he slowly cultivated and comprehended it in the future and perfected it, the mysteries of the various laws would erupt. The power of these 2 moves would become stronger and stronger. However, although it was only a preliminary comprehension, it was much stronger than purely relying on the fusion of laws. This allowed his battle prowess to increase tremendously once again. After entering this world for 2 years, Lu Ming's combat ability had improved tremendously. It's almost time. Lu Ming looked up at the sky. Buzz! All of a sudden, a powerful force acted on Lu Ming's body. Given his current strength, he was still powerless in the face of this force. His body disappeared from the spot. The next moment, he realized that he had appeared in a void. In front of him, there was a huge door of light. Beside him, figures flashed and appeared one after another. Autumn, autumn, bubble, bubbles, 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 bubbles. He also saw Yuan Xian, Mu Yang, and the others. When Mu Yang saw Lu Ming, his eyes were filled with cold murderous intent. This time, he was full of confidence. He had become a martial emperor and his strength had skyrocketed. He was confident that he could kill Lu Ming. Many people's eyes were filled with confidence. Everyone had improved greatly. Go out! A voice suddenly came from the sky. It sounded very old. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They knew that the owner of this world had spoken. He was definitely a terrifying expert. Lu Ming, on the other hand, had more thoughts. He had seen 2 geniuses from the heaven domain. The owner of this world was most likely from the heaven domain. Everyone stepped into the door of light and disappeared. Destiny Mountain. During this period, countless people had gathered. There were even more people than 2 years ago. 2 years had passed. The Battle of the Ten Lands was about to begin. Also, 320 geniuses had entered the world left behind by the primordial world. How much had they gained? How much had their strength improved? Could it be that many people had already stepped into the martial emperor realm? Everyone was very curious. In the sky above the mountain peak, figures shrouded in divine light stood there like gods. These were all martial emperors from all over the world. Uncle Kong had arrived at the primordial mountain and stood together with martial emperor Wuxian. In addition, martial emperors Heng, He, and Tian Luo had all arrived. Not only that, but many experts from the various sacred grounds had also come. For example, the ancient moon sacred ground had sent people to participate in the first battle of the Ten Lands since the ancient times. Everyone was waiting quietly. Suddenly, a door of light appeared in the sky. They're coming out. Everyone revealed a look of anticipation as they looked at the door of light. Not long after, figures walked out of the door of light and stood in the void. 320 people, not one more, not one less. There has indeed been great progress. Many people have stepped into the martial emperor realm. The martial emperors and true emperors looked carefully and revealed a look of shock. Given the cultivation level of a great emperor and a true emperor, it was not difficult for them to see through the cultivation level of Lu Ming and the rest. Alright, 2 years have passed. The Battle of the Ten Lands will now begin. Everyone, step back a little. A white-haired old man stepped out, his voice echoing in all directions. He was the host of this gathering, an old monster from Destiny City. Everyone retreated, including the martial emperors, leaving the Destiny Mountain empty. The white-haired old man waved his hand and light filled the sky above the mountain. Stone platforms appeared out of thin air. Each stone platform was very large, like a battle stage. There were a total of 320 pieces. The next competition is very simple. Each of you will choose a stone platform and step on it. There are formations set up on these stone platforms, and they operate according to their own rules. As soon as you step onto them, the stone platforms will move. Whenever two stone platforms collide with each other, the two participants will face off against one another until the top 10 are determined. The white-haired old man announced. Everyone's eyes flashed. So that was the rule. But didn't this rule have a lot to do with luck? However, many people had confident looks in their eyes. They were confident in their own strength and believed that they could defeat any opponent they met. This time, everyone had gained a lot. They were all eager to show off their strength in front of countless people. I'll go first. Someone moved. A tall and sturdy figure rushed onto a stone platform. Whoosh! 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 Chapter 21:11. Lu Ming also casually chose a stone platform and stepped onto it. When Lu Ming stepped onto the stone platform, he discovered that there was a force on the stone platform that enveloped his entire body. In the blink of an eye, a person stood on each of the 320 stone platforms. Then, all the stone platforms slowly began to move as if they had formed some kind of pattern. Soon, two of the stone platforms flew toward the center and collided with each other. On the two stone platforms, the gazes of the two youths collided, both filled with intense battle intent. Boom! Boom! Powerful auras erupted from both of them, as if a long river surrounded their bodies. Quasi-emperors. Both of their cultivations were at the quasi-emperor realm. It's one of the monarch Dao's laws of destruction, both of them are the same. Someone cried out, recognizing the laws of both of them. The two youths actually controlled the same laws. We both control the law of destruction, but you're not my match. One of them said, very confident. You're the one who's going to lose. The other person was also very confident. Boom! The two of them engaged in an intense battle. Both of them had reached the quasi-emperor realm, and their combat strength was astonishing. Moreover, they had grasped the same kind of law, and their cultivation was similar, so their combat strength was not much different. The two of them fought fiercely, and the battle continued for more than 200 rounds before the victor was decided. In the end, one of them was slightly better and defeated his opponent, sending his opponent flying out of the stone platform. After his victory, his stone platform brought him back to the center of the others, while the stone platform of the defeated person turned to dust and dissipated. The defeated person was very unwilling to accept this. He became the first person to be eliminated in the Battle of 10 Lands. There was a simple rule for this competition. That was, one could admit defeat before the competition. If one did not admit defeat once the battle began, one would be responsible for one's own life and death. Of course, one could also rush off the stone platform and admit defeat. After the first round ended, the stone platforms began to spin again. Soon, two more stone platforms flew toward the center and collided with each other. Boom! The two youths on the stone platforms directly engaged in an intense battle. Without a doubt, they were also two people with the Monarch Dao. In fact, those who could enter the top 80 in each battle zone were all people with the Monarch Dao, and their cultivation was not weak. After cultivating for another 2 years in that world, the weakest of them all advanced to Quasi-Emperor. What was surprising was that the nomological laws that these two monarch bodies controlled were the same. Could it be because of the stone platform? Lu Ming thought of the stone platform. Previously, when he stepped on the stone platform, there was a wave of energy that enveloped him. Would that energy be able to sense the laws? Or perhaps, there were other uses. Not only Lu Ming, but the others also thought so. As expected, the majority of the people who fought next all grasped the same laws. This was to let those with the same type of law determine the victor. So powerful, they are all quasi-emperors. Moreover, he's already at the stage where he's about to evolve a small world. He's about to become an emperor. Many people sighed. Indeed, in these 2 years, everyone had made great progress. Many people had not become great emperors, but they were not far from it. Some of the youths were especially envious. There were some people whose cultivation levels were about the same as theirs before, but now, the gap between them had completely widened. Some people were still stuck at the peak of the absolute saint realm. Even though there were a few who had broken through to the quasi-emperor realm in the past 2 years, they were still far from evolving a small world. The battle was very intense. In each battle, the difference in cultivation levels was not big. Moreover, the laws were the same. At least 100 moves were needed to determine the victor. Half a day later, only 10 pairs of people had fought. In the 11th battle, Lu Ming saw a familiar face. Long Chen. Moreover, Long Chen had already broken through to the martial emperor realm. 2 years ago, he was already a quasi-emperor. It was normal for him to take the opportunity to break through this time. His opponent was also a martial emperor who controlled the law of force. The two of them clashed with each other. However, in the end, Long Chen cultivated the immemorial dragonesque elephant body. His combat strength was stronger, and he defeated his opponent in a violent manner. This was the first time that there was such a great disparity in strength between two people of the same law and the same level. The bloodlines of the top 10 battle beasts are indeed extraordinary. Indeed, it is said that the further they advance, the more extraordinary they are. After reaching the martial emperor realm, they will be even stronger. Some of the older generation people discussed. The battle continued. After that, Lu Ming saw that Huang Li, Luo Xiang, Autumn Moon, and the others had gone up one by one. Huang Li, Luo Xiang, Autumn Moon, and the others had indeed broken through the shackles and reached the martial emperor realm. They were one-star illusionary emperors. They had also defeated their opponents. However, the crowd could also see that most of the battles were of the same law. However, it was not absolute. There were also battles between different laws. It was very exciting. Lu Ming was dazzled by the various laws of the King Dao. This was indeed a great era. In the past, there were very few laws of the King Dao. However, they had all appeared now. The battles continued for a few days and people were constantly eliminated. There were no rules in the battles. It was not like one could wait for the others to finish their battles after one battle. It was not like that. Some people had just finished their battles and it was their turn again after a few battles. It was completely based on the independent movement of the stone platform. Some people were unlucky and encountered terrifying geniuses at the beginning. For example, some people encountered Yuan Xian, Wu Liang, Ancient Demon, and the others. They were almost defeated in one move and could not resist at all. Lu Ming also saw Xiang Xiang and Ouyang Moli make their moves. After all, the two of them had not cultivated for long and were considered rising stars. They had not broken through to the martial emperor realm. However, they had reached the stage of evolving small worlds and were only one step away from the martial emperor realm. As long as they consolidated for a while, they would be able to break through. They easily defeated their opponents. The stone platform moved. Lu Ming drifted forward and collided with a stone platform. Finally, it was Lu Ming's turn to fight. Lu Ming's first opponent was a quasi-emperor with a martial emperor physique. "Do you want to admit defeat?" Lu Ming asked seriously. Lu Ming was not interested in a quasi-emperor with a martial emperor physique. The difference was too great. "If you want me to admit defeat, it depends on whether you have the ability to do so." The opponent sneered. It was a young man wrapped in a black robe. His face was pale. At this moment, he took out a staff. "Curse, weakening. Curse, deadly poison. Curse, corrosion." The young man immediately made his move. He waved his staff and a stream of energy suddenly appeared on Lu Ming's body and shrouded him. "This is the law of curses." Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. The law of curses was an extremely rare law of kings. It was very strange and very powerful. With the power of curses, it could kill people without leaving a trace. A stream of strange energy from his body desperately drilled into Lu Ming's body. An ordinary quasi-emperor physique would not be able to withstand it. Chapter 21:12. Right now, Lu Ming's physical body was too strong. His essence energy surged, and his blood qi was like a furnace. Every muscle of his body was filled with explosive power. Roar! Lu Ming's body moved and a dragon's roar could be heard from his body. Every pore on his body spewed out blood and qi like flames. The strange energy that shrouded his body turned into smoke and dissipated with a sizzling sound. How can this be? The expression of the youth who controlled the curse law changed drastically. He wanted to use the curse law again to deal with Lu Ming. "Get down!" Lu Ming said as he threw a punch. This punch was a punch of pure physical strength. This punch was like a meteor crashing into the sea. Space exploded like the sea, forming circular ripples that pressed towards the other party. The other party grunted and went flying. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood and flew out of the platform. This was after Lu Ming held back. Otherwise, he would have killed the other party. Lu Ming easily obtained victory. However, although Xiaoqin instantly defeated the other party, he did not attract too much attention. Although the curse law was strange and profound, that youth was only a quasi-emperor. Anyone present who was a martial emperor could kill him in one move. "Humph! You only defeated a quasi-emperor. I really hope that you can run into me." Mu Yang smiled coldly, and his gaze turned even colder. He really hoped that he could run into Lu Ming. Then, he could kill Lu Ming and wash away his previous humiliation. Lu Ming originally thought that his stone platform would move back. Unexpectedly, his stone platform did not move back. Instead, it moved and met with another stone platform. Consecutive battles. Many people were stunned for a moment before their expressions turned grave. This was the first time someone fought consecutively. They could not help being on guard. With the movement of the stone platforms, it seemed like anything was possible. They had to conserve their energy in the following battles. Otherwise, they would be at a disadvantage if they fought consecutively. This time, Lu Ming's opponent was a short-haired youth. He had sharp eyes and looked very valiant. Boom! Without any superfluous words, the other party directly burst forth with a terrifying aura. The aura brought about a strong wind as it pressed towards Lu Ming. Martial Emperor. The other party was a martial emperor with a king body. Mu Yang's eyes lit up. A martial emperor with a royal body would most likely be able to test out Lu Ming's strength. Not only Mu Yang, but some of the people from the Southern Theater of Operations were also moved. 2 years ago, Lu Ming's battle prowess was absolute. He was able to defeat Mu Yang and was called a seed expert. Many people wanted to know what realm he had reached 2 years later. Burial Earth, be buried for me. The other party made a move. His body moved horizontally. In the process of moving, his body seemed to have transformed into a stone tablet, suppressing Lu Ming. This stone tablet was extremely similar to a tombstone. Dong! Lu Ming clenched his fist and punched out, slamming it into the tombstone. The tombstone trembled and was sent flying, reverting back to its human form. Kill! The short-haired young man roared and charged at Lu Ming again. This time, his body glowed and a layer of black light emanated from his body. He waved his hands and pieces of tombstones appeared one by one, constantly suppressing Lu Ming. Burial Earth Law. Lu Ming's lips curled up slightly. Today, he had seen some mysterious laws. The Burial Earth Law could bury everything and kill it. Its power was extremely shocking. The short-haired young man used the Burial Earth Law to turn into a tombstone. He wanted to bury Lu Ming. The short-haired young man had already stepped into the martial emperor realm. His strength had soared, and he was much stronger than the genius who controlled the curse law. Lu Ming clenched his fist and punched out continuously, shattering the tombstones in the air. In the end, the short-haired young man's attack reached its peak. Large tombstones appeared in the sky, and he wanted to bury Lu Ming. The power was extremely terrifying. If someone of the same level was buried in the tombstones, it would be difficult for them to come out. Boom! An even more shocking aura erupted from Lu Ming's body as the death law permeated the air. This caused the other geniuses' eyes to narrow. Each of the Elysian children was not simple. They were worthy of attention as they were their opponents to enter the top 10. The death chi on Lu Ming's body became thicker and thicker. Finally, it turned into a long river that surrounded him. The laws formed a river. He has not yet become a martial emperor, just a quasi-emperor. Many people let out a long breath, relaxing. A quasi-emperor was not to be feared. He was destined to be a supporting character. After being in that small world for 2 years, he is still only a quasi-emperor. It looks like his talent is really lacking. Mu Yang rejoiced and could not help but mock. Humph. Even if his cultivation is low, he can still beat you up. Have you forgotten what happened 2 years ago? Xiang was indignant and mocked. Although she did not recognize Lu Ming had helped them 2 years ago. She had a good impression of Lu Ming. Seeing Mu Yang mock Lu Ming, she also mocked him. At the mention of being beaten up, Mu Yang's expression turned unsightly as he said, "That was then and this is now. He does have some strength. However, if he meets me now, only death awaits him. I will make him die a miserable death. One step ahead, one step ahead. I have already become a martial emperor, but he is still a quasi-emperor. He will never be a match for me." Mu Yang smiled coldly, filled with confidence. Lu Xiang snorted coldly but did not say anything. At this moment, Lu Ming and the short-haired youth had already started fighting again. Lu Ming executed the death law, greatly increasing his combat prowess. When he executed the death eye, it was like combat weapons flew out of his eyes and destroyed the other party's tomb. Bang! In the end, Lu Ming charged over like a barbaric dragon, breaking through the other party's defenses and sending the short-haired youth flying off the stage. Lu Ming obtained victory in this battle. Did you see that? Even though he has not become a martial emperor, he can still defeat a martial emperor. Seeing that Lu Ming had won, Lu Xiang revealed a look of joy and gave Mu Yang a mocking look. It's just defeating a martial emperor. What's the big deal? Mu Yang smiled faintly. Although he said so, there was a trace of solemnity in his heart. Being able to defeat a martial emperor with a martial emperor's martial emperor physique was enough to prove how terrifying Lu Ming was. However, he was still confident that he could beat Lu Ming. There was still a big gap between a martial emperor and an Elysian child. After this battle, Lu Ming's stone platform was sent back. The battle continued. In the blink of an eye, another day had passed. Now, half of the original 320 stone platforms were left. Half of the participants had already been eliminated. At this moment, Luo Xiang encountered a terrifying opponent. Although Luo Xiang had already become a martial emperor, his opponent this time was also a martial emperor. Moreover, it was an Elysian child. There was no suspense in this battle. Although Luo Xiang tried his best and executed the speed law to the extreme, it was useless. His opponent directly broke through his speed law with terrifying strength and defeated Luo Xiang in a crushing manner. However, his opponent had no enmity with Luo Xiang. He only injured him and did not kill him. The subsequent battles became more and more brutal. Chapter 21:13. Out of the 320 people, half of them were martial emperors. This was extremely shocking. 2 years ago, there were only a few people who had reached the martial emperor realm. But now, half of them had reached the martial emperor realm. One could imagine how much progress they had made in that world. Thus, the crowd could not help but think about how strong those who had reached the martial emperor realm 2 years ago were. Everyone looked at Destiny's Child, Yuan Xian, Wu Liang and the others. These people were martial emperors 2 years ago. Now, they were even more unfathomable. They stood calmly on the stone platform. Previously, they had also made a move, but their opponent's strength was too low, and they were all easily killed by them. Many people started to reevaluate the seeded experts. They started to guess which 10 people would be able to enter the top 10. As for Lu Ming, he was naturally excluded. In the eyes of others, Lu Ming had not reached the martial emperor realm and had already been eliminated from the competition. The battles became more intense. They were all martial emperors. Moreover, those who were fighting were at least king bodies. Although many of them were one-star empty emperors, the Elysian children with king bodies were much stronger than ordinary one-star empty emperors. Many people were eliminated. Long Chen, Huang Li, Autumn Moon, Luo Tianyi and the others were eliminated one after another. They had all encountered terrifying opponents, the Elysian children. Lu Xiang and Ouyang Moli were also eliminated. Their cultivations were still too weak and they had not reached the martial emperor realm. It was difficult for them to compete with the Elysian children who had reached the martial emperor realm. Fortunately, they were all fine. At most, they were injured. This made Lu Ming feel relieved. Boom! Mu Yang fought. He was indeed powerful. A martial emperor with king body was almost killed by him. Half of his body was turned into nothingness. The martial emperor with king body rushed out of the stone platform with difficulty and escaped death. After Mu Yang won, he cast a provocative look at Lu Ming. It was obvious that he was provoking him. Tianyun, you better pray that you don't meet me. Otherwise, you're dead. Mu Yang sent a message to Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't even look at Mu Yang, directly ignoring him. After that, Lu Ming was unsure if he was lucky or unlucky, but in the next few days, he only went to battle once. He encountered a cultivator with a monarch body who had achieved the martial monarch realm and defeated him. On the 10th day of the duel, there were only 50 people left. The reason why it was so slow was mainly because there were many people with similar cultivation levels. The battle was incomparably intense, and it was not easy to determine victory or defeat. There were even people who fought fiercely for half a day before victory or defeat was decided. It was extremely bitter. The remaining 50 people were all terrifying geniuses. There weren't many people left with king bodies, and most of them were Elysian children. Of the 10 lands, with the exception of the wasteland, each of the other 9 lands had a few Elysian children, especially the divine fate lands, which had even more. In total, there were more than 50 Elysian children. More than 50 Elysian children gathered in one era. This was something that had never happened in the primordial realm. Legend had it that such a grand occasion had only occurred in the heaven realm in the distant past. Of the remaining 50 or so people, only Lu Ming was at the quasi-emperor realm. That quasi-emperor is called Tianyun? That's right. His name is Tianyun. His luck is pretty good. He hasn't encountered anyone too strong. Yes, his luck has come to an end. There are almost no weaklings. His combat strength is astonishing among his peers. Unfortunately, his cultivation is too weak. Without achieving the martial monarch realm, he will be eliminated in the end. Around them, some people were discussing and expressing their opinions. At this moment, 2 more stone platforms collided. Many people's hearts skipped a beat. Even Lu Ming revealed an expectant look. This was because one of the 2 people was the ancient demon. Lu Ming knew very well that the ancient demon cultivated the ancient demon path, and his combat strength was extremely powerful. After 4 to 5 years, the ancient demon would definitely be even more shocking. His combat strength would definitely be unfathomable. The other person was definitely not weak. He was also an Elysian child. Like Xiang Xiang, he controlled the law of life and had also broken through to the martial monarch realm. This would be a battle between the strong. The 2 of them did not say anything else and directly attacked. The Elysian child controlled the law of life. With a wave of his hand, the sky was filled with vines as thick as an arm. Each of the vines was extremely tough, like a divine sword, and their killing power was shocking. However, the ancient demon was stronger. His entire body was covered with a layer of demonic light. The demonic light condensed into a battle saber in his hand. He directly charged into the vines that filled the sky. As the battle saber slashed down, the vines were constantly shattered. Some of the vines wrapped around his body, but they were directly shattered by the demonic light on his body. Strong, too strong. As soon as he attacked, the ancient demon had an absolute advantage. He broke through the layers of obstacles and charged at his opponent. The other party used all his strength but was still at a disadvantage. It was difficult for him to match up. This stunned many people. They found it hard to believe. What's going on with him? Why can't I feel the fluctuations of laws on his body? Some youths had never heard of the ancient demon path. At this moment, they shouted in surprise. This should be the ancient demon path, the ancient demon path. An older generation figure spoke and explained. This shocked many people and made them somewhat disappointed. The ancient demon path was so powerful that it could suppress the Elysian child. Don't be discouraged. Now that the law path is flourishing, it naturally has its advantages. The ancient demon path is not so easy to cultivate. That's right. The ancient demon path's cultivation conditions are extremely harsh. Moreover, not every ancient demon path's cultivation system is so powerful. The ancient demon is obviously a peerless genius who cultivates the ancient demon path. Some older generation figures explained so that the youths would not be discouraged. At this moment, the ancient demon's attacks were becoming more and more violent. The demonic light on his body was condensed to the extreme. It was unstoppable and constantly broke through his opponent's attacks and defenses. Pang! In the end, both sides exchanged dozens of blows. The opponent was no match for the ancient demon and was sent flying. An Elysian child who had stepped into the martial emperor realm had been defeated. The Elysian child had always been synonymous with invincibility. Apart from other Elysian children, no one could be a match for them. However, today, he had been defeated by a genius from the ancient demon path. This ancient demon is too strong. His attack power is unparalleled. There is a high chance that he will enter the top 10. Yes, there is a high chance that he will be one of the top 10. Many people were optimistic about the ancient demon. Next, after a few more battles, the remaining Elysians with king bodies were all defeated and eliminated. Bubble is going to attack. Lu Ming's eyes moved. He saw Bubble's stone platform move forward and collide with another stone platform. Such a small child, she shouldn't be from the human race. Someone looked at Bubble. She looked to be 2 or 3 years old. She was pink and extremely cute. Some young women's eyes lit up. They wished that they could hug Bubble in their arms and fiercely love her. She is not from the human race. This little girl's origin is very shocking. Chapter 21:14. Many people were even more curious when they heard what the older great emperor said. Senior, what is her true form? Someone asked. You'll know when you see it. She'll most likely reveal her true form in this battle. The great emperor smiled. Bubble's opponent was a very tall and sturdy man. He was almost 3 meters tall and had muscles all over his body like a dragon. In front of him, Bubbles really looked like a small dot. Little fella, reveal your true form. Otherwise, I won't be able to kill you when you're so tiny. The burly man said in a low, muffled voice. Big fella, don't think that you can defeat me just because you're big. If you want me to reveal my true form, we'll have to see what you're capable of. Bubble pouted, her face full of disdain. Little fella, let's see how capable you are. The burly man grinned. In the next moment, he charged at Bubble like a mountain. Boom! He threw out a punch, causing the void to tremble. He was a son of primordial chaos who controlled the primordial law. I'll spit it out! Bubble exclaimed. She opened her small mouth and blew out a transparent bubble that enveloped her opponent. At the same time, Bubble's figure flashed and disappeared. However, the void rippled. The space shattered like a mirror and turned into terrifying sharp swords that slashed at the burly man. Spacetime law. The burly man roared and threw out punches. The transparent bubble shattered and then blasted at the spatial swords. However, when he threw out his fist, the speed of his fist became extremely slow. It was as slow as a turtle. Everyone knew that the burly man was affected by the time law. The time in the void had slowed down, causing the speed of his fist to become extremely slow. Break it! The burly man roared and the primordial law erupted. The primordial law was very similar to the primordial law. It was as heavy as a mountain and every move contained boundless power. The burly man wanted to break through the restraints of Bubble's spacetime law with absolute power. As expected, the burly man unleashed his full strength. The speed of his fist suddenly increased and blasted all the spatial swords. The fist did not stop and continued to attack Bubble. However, the spacetime law was unpredictable. Bubble's figure flashed and disappeared. She shuttled through the void and appeared behind the burly man. She continued to attack him. After Bubble broke through to Martial Emperor, her usage of the spacetime laws became even more profound. Her various unfathomable means were stronger than before. Spacetime spirit rats were born with the ability to control spacetime laws. The further they advanced, the more terrifying their control over spacetime became. Otherwise, how could the spacetime spirit mouse be known as one of the top 10 beasts? Boom! The burly young man quickly turned around and blasted backward. However, Bubble's figure disappeared again. Just like that, the two of them exchanged dozens of blows before the burly youth gradually lost his patience. Xiao Budian, if you continue to waste time with me, neither of us will be able to do anything to each other. The burly young man roared. Who said that? Chirp! Bubble shouted and suddenly appeared above the burly man. Both of his hands were waving non-stop. With the burly man as the center, the void rippled like water and transformed into a wave of killing power that shot towards the burly man. Furthermore, with the acceleration of the power of time, the spatial slaughter energy was astonishingly fast. In the blink of an eye, it was already right in front of the burly young man. The burly young man was shocked. He quickly set up layers of defenses around his body to block Bubble's attack. Rumbling sounds could be heard. At that moment, Bubble opened his small mouth and continuously spat out bubbles. Hundreds of transparent bubbles appeared and then disappeared. The next moment, all of them shrouded the burly young man. The big bubbles covered the small bubbles and shrouded the burly young man in layers. Break, break, break. The burly young man continued to bombard the bubbles, trying to break them. When he smashed all these transparent bubbles, Bubbles stopped and looked at him with a smile, saying, "Big guy, you lost, chirp chirp." What? The burly young man was stunned. Then, he looked around and his face turned bitter. It turned out that he had unknowingly left the range of the stone platform. Leaving the stone platform meant that he had lost. "Senior, didn't you say that she would reveal her true form?" Someone asked the senior from before. This little guy is very smart. When the opponent was careless, she used the space-time laws to move the opponent's body out of the battle platform. I thought that she could only win by revealing her true form. The old man explained awkwardly. Bubble has become stronger. As expected, following me has restrained her and prevented her from unlocking the potential of the space-time spirit mouse. Lu Ming smiled. After Bubble won, the stone platform flew back. The burly young man's stone platform turned to dust and dissipated. He could only withdraw helplessly. He had reached the end of this battle of 10 Earths. Next, every battle was very exciting. It could be said that it was a battle between the strong. There were even Elysian children of the same laws fighting fiercely. Lu Ming saw Yuhi fighting against another child of reincarnation. The two of them exchanged more than 1,000 moves before Yuhi won with difficulty. However, he was also seriously injured. After winning, he hurriedly healed his injuries. There was also Death Blade who fought against his opponent. After exchanging a few hundred moves, he also won with difficulty. However, there were a few people who won easily. For example, Monk Wuliang was now stronger. He defeated an Elysian child of the Martial Emperor realm in a crushing manner. Yuan Xian was the same. He was strong and domineering. In less than 10 moves, he finished his battle. However, the one who made Lu Ming's expression the most serious was the Child of Destiny. This time, there were many geniuses. There were dozens of Elysian children, but only one of them controlled the law of destiny. Only Lu Ming and Yuan Xian controlled the law of primal chaos. They had the fewest people among the Elysian children. The Child of Destiny was too strong and unfathomable. It was difficult to measure his combat strength. The reason for that was because his fighting style was too peculiar and too shocking. When he fought with his opponent, he only said one sentence and his opponent was defeated. He said that his opponent was destined to be defeated. Then, his opponent was inexplicably injured and sent flying off the stone platform. This fighting style was simply inconceivable. It shocked countless people. Controlling the law of destiny can control the fate of all things in the world. An older emperor said. Countless people were shocked. Controlling the law of destiny could really control the fate of all things in the world. Didn't that mean that whoever he said would die would die? If that was the case, wouldn't it be too terrifying? He was like a god that ruled over everything. However, another emperor said. In order to use the law of destiny, one had to rely on one's own strength. For example, the Child of Destiny was now in the Void Emperor realm. It was impossible for him to kill a true emperor. The other party's strength was enough to withstand the law of destiny's attack. Everyone nodded. This made sense. Otherwise, the law of destiny would be too terrifying. Chapter 21:15. The competition continued and there were only a few dozen stone platforms left moving in the sky. As time passed, the number became fewer and fewer. After that, a few more people attracted everyone's attention. A true dragon was incomparably powerful and had unparalleled offensive power. However, there were no fluctuations of laws on his body. A great emperor deduced that he cultivated the immemorial path of demons. The immemorial path of demons was also a type of immemorial path of demons. There was another person who was completely black and looked like an iron tower. He had boundless strength and there seemed to be no energy fluctuations on his body. He only relied on the strength of his physical body to send a martial emperor realm Elysian child flying out of the battle platform. Everyone was shocked. Some great emperors speculated that this should also be a type of immemorial path of demons, immemorial body cultivators. They specialized in body cultivation and the strength of their physical body had reached an earth-shattering level. Some great emperors explained that in the immemorial path of demons, there were body cultivators who could strike down the stars in the sky with just their physical body. It was terrifying to the extreme. There was a burst of discussion. The Battle of the Ten Lands was really unexpected. There were too many experts. Even geniuses of the immemorial path of demons appeared one after another. Immemorial path of demons, immemorial path of demons, immemorial body cultivators appeared one after another and suppressed the Elysian child. Many people speculated that the three of them could enter the top 10. Then, Lu Ming saw that Xing Xinhe also defeated his opponent. After coming out of the Lotus World, Xing Xinhe had disappeared and never appeared again. However, there was no doubt that this person who had always been the #1 genius of Yuan Mountain had become stronger. His opponent was also an Elysian child, but he still defeated his opponent in a domineering manner, attracting attention. After Xing Xinhe defeated his opponent, the stone platform under Lu Ming's feet moved forward. Is it finally my turn? Ah, Mu Yang! Lu Ming whispered and then his expression became interesting. The reason for that was because the other stone platform that moved over was actually Mu Yang. What a coincidence! A wisp of killing intent flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. As for Mu Yang himself, he was also stunned. Then, a cold killing intent spread out like a blade. Bang! The two stone platforms collided. Ha, Tianyun, you're really unlucky. This time, I'll make sure you die miserably. Mu Yang let out a cold laugh. He was too excited. He had been looking forward to meeting Lu Ming. He did not expect that he would really meet him. This time, he was going to avenge himself. Why do I feel like I'm very lucky? Lu Ming smiled. Tianyun encountered Mu Yang. 2 years ago, Mu Yang was defeated by Tianyun and was almost eliminated. However, in the past 2 years, Tianyun did not seem to have improved much and did not break through to the martial emperor realm. On the other hand, Mu Yang has already become a martial emperor. His battle prowess is definitely above Tianyun's. In the battle between geniuses, combat power is important, but so is potential. It seems that Tianyun's potential is not good enough. His future achievements will be limited. Some people were discussing. Some people felt that although Lu Ming's battle prowess was strong, his potential was not enough. Even if he could become a great emperor in the future, it would probably be very difficult for him to achieve much. Bang! Bang! Mu Yang stepped towards Lu Ming. His martial emperor cultivation was fully displayed. His aura swept towards Lu Ming like a gale. In such an environment, you still have not broken through to the martial emperor realm. You are really a piece of trash. In the future, you will never be my opponent. No, there is no future. Today, you will die. Mu Yang sneered as his aura grew stronger. You talk too much. Kill! Lu Ming suddenly shouted and charged towards Mu Yang. His eyes were filled with the light of death as he attacked fiercely. Mu Yang wanted to continue acting tough, but he did not expect Lu Ming to suddenly attack. He did not follow the rules at all. He roared and retreated rapidly. His hands pressed forward, and the law of nothingness destroyed Lu Ming's attack. Even if you sneak attack, you are still not my opponent. Ah! Mu Yang wanted to ridicule Lu Ming, but Lu Ming's attack power suddenly increased. His speed also increased. He directly smashed Mu Yang's attack and slapped Mu Yang's face. Mu Yang let out a miserable scream as his body flew out like a sandbag. He almost flew off the stone platform. He was too miserable. His face was already badly mangled, almost exploding. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. Was Lu Ming so strong that he could actually beat Mu Yang? Despicable man, it was just a sneak attack. Some Mu clan experts refused to admit their mistake. "Ah, I will kill you." Mu Yang roared and dashed toward Lu Ming as if he had gone mad. He exploded with all his strength and rushed towards Lu Ming. A sea formed by the law of nothingness enveloped Lu Ming. Originally, he thought that he could easily beat Lu Ming. He did not expect that he would be beaten so badly by Lu Ming at the start of the battle. He was mad with hatred and wished he could cut Lu Ming into pieces. Lu Ming stood motionless, allowing the sea of nothingness to envelop him. "Die for me!" Mu Yang roared and exploded with power. His small world revolved. The power of his small world and the law of nothingness worked together to turn Lu Ming into nothingness. However, a river of law revolved around Lu Ming's body, constantly blocking the invasion of the law of nothingness. "It's just a river of law. You can't stop me. Die!" Mu Yang roared. The sea of nothingness transformed into all kinds of attacking power and attacked Lu Ming. "Is that so? Then what if I add another kind?" Lu Ming smiled faintly. Suddenly, another river of law appeared on his body. This was a river of law formed by the law of Array Dao. 2 rivers of law revolved around him. How is this possible? Mu Yang roared in disbelief. Hadn't Lu Ming not broken through to Martial Emperor? How could he control 2 kinds of law? 2 kinds of law. How is this possible? He hasn't broken through to Martial Emperor, but he can control 2 kinds of law. One is the strongest law, and the other is the law of kings. The scene was in an uproar. Many people shouted in shock. Being able to control 2 kinds of law without breaking through to Martial Emperor was beyond their imagination. Only the Martial Emperors were calm. They were not surprised. Many people had seen Lu Ming's previous attacks. "Today, I'll kill you," Lu Ming said coldly. His arms shook, and the 2 kinds of law merged. Lu Ming struck out with his palm. Mu Yang's sea of nothingness shook violently and then exploded. Lu Ming had 5 kinds of law perfection. After 5 rounds of tempering, his physical body and saint energy were too strong, far surpassing those of the same level. Just his physical body and saint energy were already powerful. Now that he had merged the law of death and the law of Array Dao, he exploded and broke Mu Yang's sea of nothingness. Mu Yang's body shook violently, and he almost vomited blood. Swoosh! Lu Ming's body was like a bolt of lightning. He approached Mu Yang and struck out with his palm. Mu Yang tried his best to block, but it was useless. His arm collided with Lu Ming's arm, and it almost broke. The web between his thumb and forefinger was torn, and blood flowed. Bam! Bam! Chapter 21:16. Ah! Mu Yang screamed miserably, his face was filled with fear. He turned around and fled, trying to escape from the stone platform. But how could Lu Ming let him do as he wished? He must kill Mu Yang. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and caught up with Mu Yang in an instant. He blasted a palm on Mu Yang's back. Mu Yang screamed miserably. His body was penetrated and there was a big hole that penetrated the front and back of his body. Now, his arms were crippled, his body was penetrated, his battle prowess was greatly reduced, he was even less able to contend against Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming leaped up and kicked Mu Yang's face. Mu Yang's body slammed heavily onto the stone platform, causing the stone platform to rumble. A series of cracking sounds could be heard from his body. Dozens of bones were broken. Then, Lu Ming stepped on Mu Yang's face, making him unable to move. This is very similar to the first time Mu Yang challenged Lu Ming. He was also trampled on by Lu Ming and lost all his face. Ah, Tianyun, I must kill you, I want you to die without a burial ground. Mu Yang crazily roared, he has really gone crazy. Before the great battle, he was still acting all high and mighty, saying that Lu Ming would definitely die a horrible death. He even mocked Lu Ming for being a good-for-nothing with no potential, unable to break through to martial emperor, and that Lu Ming would never be his match. But now, how many moves has it been since the battle started? He is like a wild dog being trampled on by Lu Ming. This kind of humiliation is driving him crazy. You still dare to threaten me in this kind of situation? Lu Ming was indifferent. He waved his hand and 2 rays of light bombarded Mu Yang's legs, causing them to explode. Ah! Mu Yang let out a hysterical miserable shriek. Although with his current cultivation, even if only his head was left, he could regrow his flesh and restore his body. But this kind of pain is real. Now, his 4 limbs were crippled, his body was penetrated, he suffered heavy injuries, he is in incomparable pain. Tianyun, you dare to kill me? The experts of my Mu clan are right here. If you dare to kill me, you'll have to face the revenge of my Mu clan. Mu Yang roared. He was certain that Lu Ming would not dare to kill him. He stared viciously at Lu Ming. As long as he didn't die, he would definitely kill Lu Ming in the future, no matter what method he had to use. Bang! Lu Ming's expression became cold, and he directly stomped down. Mu Yang's head was like a watermelon that exploded. Then, a soul flew out and was caught by Lu Ming. It was Mu Yang's soul. At that moment, fear filled the face of Mu Yang's soul. He never thought that Lu Ming would actually dare to kill him. Was he not afraid of the Mu clan's revenge? You're courting death. The experts of the Mu clan were truly enraged. Someone roared, his aura shocking. It was as if the entire world was trembling. Without a doubt, this was a great emperor from the Mu clan. Mu Yang was done for. His physical body was completely destroyed, and only his soul was left. Even if he was reborn, he would not have the same achievements as before. This made the experts of the Mu clan furious. They immediately wanted to attack and kill Lu Ming. But in the next moment, at least 10 cold gazes swept towards the great emperor of the Mu clan. The great emperor of the Mu clan felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured on him. He was instantly extinguished, and his aura was retracted. This was the Battle of 10 Earths. The great emperors of various regions were gathered here, and no one was allowed to disturb them. If he attacked, a group of great emperors would probably attack and kill him. Tianyun, you'd better let Mu Yang go. The great emperor of the Mu clan did not dare to attack, and could only threaten. Lu Ming sneered, too lazy to care. Tianyun, let me go. I beg you, let me go. At this moment, Mu Yang was truly afraid. He knew that he had encountered a lawless person who was not afraid of him at all. Lu Ming's gaze was cold. He had no intention of letting Mu Yang go. With Mu Yang's personality, letting him go might be more dangerous. He would definitely take revenge and would not give up. So, what was the difference whether he let Mu Yang go or not? If I let you go, you'll find assassins from the nation of death to assassinate me? Lu Ming said coldly. Mu Yang was stunned, then his face twisted with disbelief. In the end, he shouted hysterically, you're Lu Ming, you're not dead. Mu Yang's scream spread in all directions and everyone heard it. Many people were stunned. What? He's Lu Ming, the son of Chaos Lu Ming. Didn't the people from the nation of death say that they've already killed Lu Ming? Is he not dead? Many people discussed in shock. At this moment, the eyes of the son of Chaos Yuan Xian shone like 2 stars as he looked at Lu Ming. Xing Xing his energy burst out and his body was bathed in white light as he stared at Lu Ming. He's Lu Ming, Qiu Yu, Huang Ling, Long Chen, and the others were overjoyed. Master, it must be Master. Lu Xiang and Ouyang Moli were also overjoyed. They finally understood why Lu Ming had helped them. They didn't know who he was, but Lu Ming helped them. They were puzzled before, but now they finally understood. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Lu Ming. So, he's Lu Ming. Some Emperor Realm experts whispered. They had already seen through Lu Ming's true appearance, but they hadn't seen Lu Ming before, so they didn't know that he was Lu Ming. Lu Ming didn't hide it. His body began to change, revealing his true appearance. It's really Lu Ming. Some people who had seen Lu Ming before exclaimed in disbelief. Ha ha ha, I told you, how could Lu Ming die? Huang Li laughed. Death Nation, they really know how to blow their own trumpet. Ouyang Wushuang also laughed. Young master, Qiu Yu was overjoyed. Some people who were familiar with Lu Ming were overjoyed. Although they didn't believe that Lu Ming was dead, they couldn't help but worry. Death Nation, an assassin organization, was too terrifying. They were afraid that it might be true. Now that they saw Lu Ming, they were finally relieved. Why isn't he dead? The countenances of some of Lu Ming's enemies changed and they became very ugly. Experts from Heng family, He family, Daluo Heaven's sect, Wan family, Golden Crow clan, Sky Wolf Pagoda, and other forces stood in the crowd, feeling indignant and regretful. They couldn't wait for Lu Ming to be killed. This was especially so for the forces in the ancient Moon Holy Land. Lu Ming was getting stronger and stronger. He was giving them too much pressure and they were very worried. It's really you. The son of chaos, Yuan Xian, was shrouded in chaotic light. He was like a god of war, staring at Lu Ming. He had been invincible all his life and rarely suffered losses. However, during the assessment of Hunyuan's sect, he suffered a great loss. He was defeated by Lu Ming and lost the last inheritance. Moreover, the inheritance of the Chaos Emperor was also in the hands of Lu Ming. He and Lu Ming were bound to fight. That's not right. How could he be Lu Ming? Isn't he the son of death who controls the law of death? Someone calmed down and finally found the problem. Lu Ming used the law of death previously. However, Lu Ming was the son of chaos. The scene was very lively and many people were discussing. Now, it suddenly quieted down and there was no sound at all. Everyone stared at Lu Ming with their eyes wide open. They couldn't wait to see through Lu Ming. Even those great emperors were the same. Huang Ling and those who were close to Lu Ming were also the same. They were in disbelief. Chapter 21:17. A single person had actually mastered 2 supreme laws. Everyone was dumbfounded, unable to believe it. Some even suspected that someone had disguised himself as Lu Ming. However, a great emperor spoke up to prove that this was Lu Ming's true appearance and that he had not disguised himself. Whoosh! The scene was in an uproar. One person could actually control 2 supreme laws at the same time, and they were below the martial emperor realm. Then, in addition to the Array Dao law from before, wouldn't Lu Ming control 3 supreme laws? It was a complete uproar. This was unprecedented. Heavens, it's heaven-defying, Lu Ming is going to defy the heavens. One person controlling 2 supreme laws at the same time, how is it possible? Even a martial emperor can't do it. The supreme laws are incompatible, this has been the truth since ancient times, and now the truth has been broken. Many people shouted, even many of the older generation were the same, mainly because the impact was too great. It was as if the truth that they had always believed in had collapsed in an instant, and they could not calm down. Even the Thearchs could not calm down, looking at Lu Ming as if he was looking at a monster. How is this possible? How is this possible? Those who had a grudge with Lu Ming, such as the Heng family, were all in disbelief. Boom! At this moment, Yuan Xian, Destiny's child, and the other strongest geniuses could not stay calm, and a terrifying aura erupted from their bodies. Invincible, Big Brother Lu Ming is invincible. Bubbles screamed even louder. Master is invincible. Lu Xiang and Ouyang Moli also cheered. Lu Ming touched his nose. He knew that once he revealed his true identity, it would definitely cause an uproar and shock the world. However, he still did not hide it. Because if he faced Yuan Xian, Destiny's child, and the others later, he would definitely not be able to hide it and would have to use his full strength. Sooner or later, he would be exposed. In addition, now that the energy in the heavenly Thearcha's body had been stored up to 36%, he had confidence and fewer worries. If the Mu clan wanted to make a move on him, Xiang, Qiu Yu, and the others after the 10 Earths battle ended, he could just take them and run. In any case, the heavenly monarch's physical body was shockingly strong. Not to mention, there was still Emperor Wu Xiang, Uncle Kong, and the others. At this moment, Uncle Kong, Emperor Wu Xiang, and the others were unable to calm down as they stroked their beards with all their might. They had lived for countless years, but this was the first time they had seen something like this. Let me go. At this moment, Mu Yang was nearly scared to death as he screamed crazily. One person could actually control 2 supreme laws. No wonder his combat prowess was so terrifying. He was about to be scared to death. Mu Yang, it was you who ordered the Death God Nation to assassinate me, right? Lu Ming said coldly. Lu Ming, spare my life, Mu Yang screamed in terror. Many people's hearts stirred. It seemed that this was really Mu Yang's doing. He had asked the people from the Nation of Death to assassinate Lu Ming. They did not know what method Lu Ming had used to avoid death. Moreover, the people from the Nation of Death had mistakenly thought that they had killed Lu Ming. Despicable, you can't defeat my master, but you secretly ordered assassins to kill him. Damn it! Master, kill him! Xiang and Ouyang Moli were filled with righteous indignation. They couldn't wait to kill Mu Yang personally. Mu Yang, rest in peace. Lu Ming said. Then, under Mu Yang's terrified gaze, he clenched his fist and a terrifying force directly crushed Mu Yang's soul, causing his soul to scatter. Damn it! The Mu family's great emperor roared as his eyes were extremely sinister. An Elysian child was killed just like that. Their hearts were bleeding. A king body was said to have the potential to become a great emperor, and an Elysian child was undoubtedly stronger. The chances of them breaking through to the great emperor realm were very high, and they could even take a step closer and touch the supreme heavenly emperor realm. Such a genius would be treated as a treasure by any force. But now, he was killed by Lu Ming in front of everyone, and his soul scattered. After killing Mu Yang, the stone platform that represented Mu Yang turned into a puff of green smoke and dissipated. Lu Ming returned to the stone platform and floated back. Pairs of eyes fell on Lu Ming. Some were filled with solemnity, while others were filled with intense battle intent. Previously, no one took Lu Ming seriously. No matter how strong a quasi-emperor was, he wouldn't be a threat to them. But now, it was different. Lu Ming had killed Mu Yang, and for the first time, he had mastered 2 supreme laws. Most importantly, Lu Ming didn't use the law of primal chaos when he killed Mu Yang. If he used the law of primal chaos and the law of death, how powerful would it be? Everyone re-evaluated Lu Ming's battle strength. Of course, there were also people who didn't think highly of Lu Ming. They thought that mastering 2 supreme laws at the same time was already unprecedented. It was impossible to fuse 2 supreme laws and increase the power of the 2 supreme laws. Many people agreed with this point of view. While everyone was unable to calm down, the competition continued. After Lu Ming and Mu Yang's battle, there were only 20 or so people left. It could be said that those who remained were all experts among experts. Every battle attracted everyone's attention. Destiny's Child, Yuan Xian, Wuliang, and the others still defeated their opponents. Deathblade had finally reached the end. He encountered a true dragon that seemed to cultivate the immemorial demonic Tao. It was incomparably powerful. Although Deathblade did his best, he was still not a match for it. After a few dozen moves, he was defeated. Eternal Star River also encountered a powerful opponent. However, he was indeed very strong. After exchanging over 100 moves with his opponent, he narrowly won. Bubble also defeated his opponent. When it was Lu Ming's turn again, his opponent was not strong. He was slightly weaker than Mu Yang and was defeated by Lu Ming. Slowly, there were only 13 people left. 13 stone platforms floated in the air, sizing each other up. These 13 people could be said to be very strong. Among them, Destiny's Child, Yuan Xian, Wuliang, the true dragon that cultivated the immemorial demonic Tao, the immemorial physique cultivator, and the space-time child were the ones who received the most attention. Because these people had stepped into the martial emperor realm 2 years ago. 2 years later, they were undoubtedly stronger. Their strength was unfathomable. However, these people had yet to encounter each other. Could it be related to the stone platforms? Lu Ming pondered. Perhaps the stone platforms could also roughly distinguish the strong and weak. Therefore, some of the strongest people would automatically avoid them. This was very likely. If some of the strongest people encountered them first, it would be unfair. The stone platforms rotated. Then, 2 stone platforms flew out and collided with each other. One of them was Destiny's Child. The person who collided with Destiny's Child had an ugly expression. He actually encountered Destiny's Child. Destiny's Child's name was Tianming. Using Destiny City as his name, one could see that his heart was higher than the heavens. Moreover, he was worthy of this name. Tianming was dressed in white. His long hair reached his waist. He was unbelievably handsome, like the legendary god's child. Chapter 21:18. Destiny's Child, Tianming, was thought to be the most likely candidate to win the competition. Before the competition, Yuan Xian was the only one who was thought to be able to compete with Tianming. Of course, there were many dark horses now, such as Wuliang, the true dragon, and the primordial physique cultivator. However, most people still thought that Tianming would have no problem winning the competition. Destiny's Child controlled fate, and there were only a few in history. Almost every one of them stood at the peak and became a peak expert. Do you want to admit defeat? Tianming asked his opponent calmly with a smile on his face. Among the top 10 laws, the law of destiny is faintly superior to the other laws. I want to experience it. The young man said. He was also a very powerful child of heaven. 2 years ago, he was about to become a great emperor. After 2 years of cultivation, his cultivation had reached the peak of 1-star void emperor. How could he surrender without a fight? Tianming shook his head and said, "From the moment you said that, your fate was already sealed. You will lose." What bullshit fate is this? My fate is up to me, not the heavens. No one can control my fate. The young man shouted and charged at Tianming. You are destined to be struck by lightning. Tianming said with a smile. Rumble. As soon as he finished speaking, endless lightning appeared out of nowhere and struck at his opponent. Every bolt of lightning was multicolored. There were 5 different colors, and they were as thick as an arm. Their power was shocking. The densely packed lightning directly drowned the young man. The young man let out a long howl and unleashed a crazy burst of power, using a divine ability to resist the lightning. Your fate is to be burned by fire. Tianming said again. Then, endless flames appeared. They were incomparably terrifying flames that drowned the young man. Your fate is to be cut by a blade. Your fate is to be hammered. Tianming said continuously. Every word he said was coming true. All kinds of attacks were launched at his opponent endlessly. Finally, the young man couldn't resist anymore. He vomited blood and was sent flying out of the stage. Tianming, on the other hand, had a smile on his face from beginning to end. He stood on the stone stage in his white robe, not moving a single step. He was extraordinary. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, shocked beyond words. The law of fate was too terrifying. Could it really decide one's fate? If he said that the other party was going to be struck by lightning, then he was going to be struck by lightning. If he was going to be slashed by a saber, then he was going to be slashed by a saber. It was as if he was controlling the fate of others. Even Lu Ming had a serious look in his eyes. Heaven's Will's stone platform flew back. There were still 12 people left. After another 20% of the competition, the top 10 would be determined. Soon, 2 more stone platforms flew out and collided with each other. Everyone was shocked again. This time, the one who stepped out was Yuan Xian. His opponent's face also darkened. In the eyes of others, Yuan Xian was someone who could compete with Tian Ming. Encountering him was just bad luck. Boom! Yuan Xian directly attacked, domineering and overbearing. His primal chaos divine fist was unparalleled in terms of offensive power. The moment he attacked, he would crush his opponent crazily. His opponent might be powerful, but he was still at a disadvantage. He was no match for him at all. Yuan Xian's cultivation is definitely not a 1-star empty emperor. I'm afraid he's already a 2-star empty emperor. Someone guessed. Many people nodded. This was normal. Yuan Xian had already become an empty emperor 2 years ago. In the past 2 years, he had encountered many opportunities. How could he not have improved? Not long after, Yuan Xian's opponent was defeated. He coughed up blood and left the battle platform. After Yuan Xian retreated, there were still 11 people left. Then, 2 more stone platforms collided with each other. It's him, an archaic body cultivator. Lu Ming's eyes moved, revealing a look of interest. One of them was the archaic body cultivator named Bao De. This person was almost 3 meters tall. He was bald and his body was pitch black like a piece of black coal or a piece of black steel. He seemed to be filled with endless power. Archaic body cultivators specialized in cultivating their physical bodies. Their physique was unparalleled and their power was endless. Lu Ming was very interested. His flesh had been tempered by the law 5 times in a row and contained 3 streaks of chaotic qi. It was already very powerful. But compared to Bao De, there was still a big gap. Bao De's opponent's face was also very ugly. This was because Bao De was also considered one of the strongest few people. Why were the opponents of the last 3 people facing the strongest ones? Haha, little one, make your move. Bao De grinned and walked towards the other party like a giant. Boom! Bao De made his move. It was simple and direct. He directly threw out a punch. This punch directly pierced through space. His pitch-black fist was like an immemorial divine mountain as it pressed down on the other party. His opponent was not weak either. He could be said to be very strong. He erupted with all his strength to resist Bao De. Unfortunately, he was still unable to match Bao De. Bao De's fist landed and directly pierced through the strongest law. His opponent's face changed drastically. He quickly retreated and was almost sent flying out of the stone platform by Bao De. Little one, you can't do it. Ha ha ha. Bao De laughed. His 3-meter-tall body directly charged towards his opponent at an astonishing speed. Boom! His opponent used all his strength and blasted out a divine ability. But when it landed on Bao De's body, it was useless. It did not break Bao De's defense. Bao De's body was like a divine weapon. He broke through his opponent's attack and then ruthlessly slammed into his opponent's body. His opponent groaned. Crackling sounds came from his body. Then, he vomited a large mouthful of blood. His body was directly sent flying out of the battle platform. Many people gasped. This Bao De was really terrifying. His strength was endless. He defeated his opponent in just a few moves. What a terrifying power. It's pure physical strength. In the crowd, Huang Li and Long Chen's faces were very solemn. They cultivated the law of force and were known as the ultimate strength. But compared to Bao De, they were far behind. After Bao De defeated his opponent, there were only 10 people left on the scene. The top 10 were born. They were Tian Ming, Yuan Xian, Wu Liang, Bao De, the True Dragon Ao Ku, the Spacetime's Son, Yun Haoge, Bubbles, Heng Xinghe, Ancient Devil, and Lu Ming. Everyone's eyes fell on the 10 people. In the entire land of Yuan Mountain, there were countless geniuses. The 10 strongest geniuses were the focus of everyone's attention. Alright, now that the top 10 have been born, I'll give you 3 days to recuperate. 3 days later, the final battle will begin. The white-haired old man stepped forward and announced. Master is too powerful. And Bubbles, Lu Xiang, Ouyang Moli, and the others cheered excitedly. However, most of them did not look good because the geniuses that they thought highly of had failed and did not enter the top 10. Senior, I'm not convinced. At this moment, a voice sounded, causing everyone to quiet down. A young man stepped forward and cupped his fists at the white-haired old man. I'm not convinced either. Me too. Chapter 21:19. Everyone recognized that 3 of them were the last 3 youths who had been defeated by Tianming, Yuan Xian, and Baoda. The other 2 youths were also the ones who had encountered Tianming and Yuan Xian. There were 5 of them in total. What's wrong with you? The white-haired old man asked. Some of them aren't strong enough to enter the top 10. That's right, they were just lucky and didn't encounter any strong opponents. That's why they aren't convinced. The youths spoke one after another. Everyone understood. These youths felt that they were too unlucky to have encountered Tianming, Yuan Xian, and the others. They were defeated because Tianming and the others were too strong. Many of them had not encountered Tianming and the others in the top 10. Therefore, these youths felt that they had only lost because of luck and not because of strength. Many of them had the same thought, especially when their gazes swept over Lu Ming, Bubbles, and Heng Xinghe. I see. The white-haired old man nodded and said, the stone platform under your feet has a special effect, so some people won't encounter you in advance. However, you won't be convinced if you don't fight. How about this, I'll give you a chance. You can challenge any one of the 10 youths. If you can win, you can replace them. Hearing this, the youth's eyes lit up. At the same time, their gazes fell on Lu Ming, Bubbles, and Heng Xinghe with strong battle intent. They were unconvinced because of Lu Ming's group. They felt that they were stronger than Lu Ming, Bubbles, and Heng Xinghe. Lu Ming might have mastered 2 supreme laws, but his cultivation was only at the quasi-emperor realm. Although he had defeated Mu Yang, which one of them wasn't stronger than Mu Yang? There was also Bubbles, a 3 to 4-year-old child who was only a 1-star illusionary emperor. They had nothing to fear. It was the same for Heng Xinghe, who was only a 1-star illusionary emperor. As for the ancient devil, although he was also a 1-star illusionary emperor, he cultivated the immemorial demon Dao and his battle strength was extremely strong. They had no confidence in defeating him. As for Tianming, Yuan Xian, Wu Liang, Baoda, Xia Ku, and Yun Haoge, they did not consider them. These 6 people had already become emperors 2 years ago and their strength was unfathomable. I'll challenge first. A red-haired youth stepped forward. What right do you have to challenge first? I'll go first. I'll go first. There were 5 young men in total, all of whom wanted to challenge Qin Nan first. He would definitely have an advantage if he chose to challenge the weakest one first. Finally, the white-haired elder had them draw lots to decide who would go first. In the end, a tall and thin youth was the first to fight. This person had been defeated by Baoda. Now, he was the first to challenge someone. His gaze swept over Lu Ming, Bubbles, and Stellar River, and finally landed on Stellar River. You also cultivate eternal laws? Come out and fight me. The lanky youth spoke because he also cultivated in the eternal laws. I was just about to fight you. Xinghe's eyes shone brightly as he stepped out, emitting a powerful aura from his body. Both of them cultivated in the eternal laws. The 2 of them weren't the only geniuses who cultivated the eternal laws. However, there was no doubt that the 2 of them were the strongest. Bang! Bang! Suddenly, the 2 of them moved and engaged in a fierce battle. The eternal laws collided continuously, and the battle was incomparably intense. In the beginning, the 2 of them were evenly matched. After exchanging more than 100 moves, it was difficult to determine the winner. However, after more than 100 moves, Xinghe began to gain the upper hand and suppressed his opponent. Roar! Xinghe roared with a wild aura. His long hair danced in the wind, and his eyes were as bright as the stars. Back then, he had been defeated by Lu Ming. After that, he had been in seclusion and focused on cultivation. In the end, he had transformed and become stronger than before. Good, ha! Great Emperor Heng laughed heartily. After a few more moves, Xinghe sent his opponent flying off the stone platform and won. The first challenge ended in failure, causing the remaining challengers to look a little solemn. Originally, Xinghe was the weakest in their eyes, but he still failed the challenge. Now, it's my turn. The young man with fiery red hair who had been defeated by Tianming stepped out. Finally, his gaze landed on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, come out and fight me. The young man with fiery red hair stared at Lu Ming. Do you think I'm a pushover? Lu Ming pursed his lips. With a thought, the stone platform under his feet flew forward. The young man with fiery red hair landed on the stone platform. The stone platform was equivalent to a battle stage. Lu Ming, you haven't become an emperor. Although you have mastered 2 supreme laws, I can still defeat you, the young man with fiery red hair clamored, trying to provoke Lu Ming. You're so impatient. Before the young man with fiery red hair could finish his words, Lu Ming rushed towards him and used the law of chaos and the law of array. The 2 laws merged and used the chaotic divine palm to strike the young man with fiery red hair. The young man with fiery red hair erupted and used all his strength to fight against Lu Ming. Lu Ming's fusion of the law of chaos and the law of array was stronger than the fusion of the law of death and the law of array. After all, the chaotic divine palm was a divine ability of the law of chaos. Lu Ming's attacks were like a storm, constantly attacking the young man with fiery red hair. In an instant, he blasted out hundreds of palms. Bam! Bam! After hundreds of collisions, the young man with fiery red hair's arm went numb and was almost broken. His body kept shaking and he kept retreating. Since the beginning of the fight, he had been suppressed by Lu Ming and was completely at a disadvantage. He could not resist and was forced to retreat from the stone platform. You still dare to challenge me? You're just a so-so. Lu Ming pursed his lips and flew back to the stone platform. Lu Ming didn't use the fusion of the law of chaos and the law of death. Could it be that he really didn't fuse these 2 laws? It's naturally not that easy to fuse 2 supreme laws. Even so, his strength is still very strong, slightly stronger than the stellar river. Some people discussed. The faces of the remaining challengers turned even uglier. The few who they thought were the weakest had such strength. Could it be that they would not succeed in their challenge? Then, a young man challenged Bubble. Bubble still did not transform into his true body. Relying on the mysterious space-time law, he played with the opponent for 100 or 200 moves. In the end, he inexplicably sent his opponent off the stone platform and won. The remaining 2 challengers looked at each other. In the end, they sighed and shook their heads, giving up on the challenge. Even Lu Ming, Bubble, and Heng Xinghe were so strong. They had no confidence in challenging the remaining challengers. They would only be beaten up, so they might as well not challenge. At this point, the top 10 were officially born. After a round of challenges, no one doubted the combat strength of Lu Ming and the others. They were the top 10 strongest people among the younger generation in Yuanlu. The 10 of them sized each other up, creating dazzling sparks when they collided. Chapter 21-20. Especially Heng Xinghe, most of his attention was on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, I'll defeat you this time. Heng Xinghe said with an intimidating look in his eyes. I'll be waiting for you. Lu Ming's reply was simple. To be honest, he didn't take Heng Xinghe seriously anymore. Lu Ming's current opponents were Tianming and Yuan Xian. Yunhaoge, on the other hand, looked at Bubbles with greed in his eyes. Little guy, you must be a divine beast, right? You can control the laws of space and time. How about this? Be my pet and fight with me. Yunhaoge said. He was indeed eager. It would be of great help to him if he had a pet that could control the laws of space and time with him. You're more like my human pet. Bubble curled its lips in disdain. I will make you accept it wholeheartedly. Yunhauge said coldly. Brother Lu Ming, is that guy an idiot? He wants me to be his pet. Bubbles' figure flashed and it appeared on Lu Ming's body. Its small body hung on Lu Ming's body like an octopus. He is indeed an idiot. Lu Ming smiled and patted Bubbles' head. Everyone was stunned. It turned out that Lu Ming and Bubble were so close. Was Bubble Lu Ming's pet? Was it Lu Ming's pet? That would be terrifying. The two of them had entered the top 10. Yunhauge became gloomy and glanced at Lu Ming coldly. On the other side, Bao De, Chiel and the ancient devil were also staring at each other and unleashing their combat strength. All three of them practiced the archaic system and were geniuses. They naturally wanted to see who was better. Among the top 10, only Tian Ming stood there calmly with a smile, as if he had nothing to do with it. Everyone was looking forward to the battle. The battle hadn't even started yet, but the atmosphere was already tense. The final battle between the top 10 would definitely be exciting and epic. In the history of the primordial realm, there had never been so many geniuses born, nor had there ever been a battle of the 10 Earths. This great battle was unprecedented. Many of the Elysian children were reduced to foils. If this was said a few decades ago, they would have laughed to death. In the past, an Elysian child was a legend, a character capable of suppressing an era. However, in this era, he was reduced to a supporting role, which made countless people excited. This battle was destined to be recorded in the annals of history, to be passed down through the ages. Rest up. We'll fight in 3 days. The white-haired old man announced once more. Everyone found a place to rest. Lu Ming walked towards Autumn Moon and the others. Young master, I knew you would be fine. Autumn Moon was overjoyed. She threw herself into Lu Ming's arms, ignoring the strange looks from others. Lu Ming. Huang Ling walked over. Her gaze was a bit complicated, but it disappeared in a flash, hidden by her. Then, the others also came over to greet Lu Ming. Master. Xiang Xiang and Ouyang Moli bowed to Lu Ming. At the side, many people did not know that Xiang Xiang and Ouyang Moli were Lu Ming's disciples. When they saw this, they were dumbfounded. Lu Ming was young and extraordinary. Now, he actually had 2 disciples of the Elysian children. It was really shocking. Even the great emperors were envious. You too, cultivate well and strive to become great emperors as soon as possible. Lu Ming looked at Xiang Xiang and Ouyang Moli. At the same time, he thought of himself. It seemed that it would be very difficult for him to become a great emperor. From the looks of it, he would probably be surpassed by his 2 disciples. This made his old face blush slightly. Then, Lu Ming bowed to Emperor Wu Xiang, Uncle Kong, and the others. Lu Ming, this time, do your best. After the Battle of the 10 Lands, there will be great opportunities waiting for you. Emperor Wu Xiang smiled and transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. Lu Ming was shocked. There were great opportunities waiting for them. However, thinking about it, it made sense. Previously, it was just a selection, but they could enter the world left behind by the primordial world. Now that it was the final battle, how could there be no opportunities? I will do my best. Lu Ming nodded. Then, Lu Ming chose a place and sat cross-legged in the air. He circulated his qi and adjusted his condition to the best. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. The final peak battle was about to begin. The white-haired old man stood at the top of Destiny Mountain. With a wave of his hand, a huge battle platform appeared on top of Destiny Mountain. It was 100 miles wide and was purple-gold in color. It was filled with a noble aura. Obviously, the final battle would take place on this battle platform. The final battle of the top 10 will be fought in turns. Each person will have to fight with the other 9 and be ranked according to their winning percentage. The white-haired old man said. Lu Ming nodded. As he expected, they would use this hairstyle. This was the fairest way to determine the ranking. It was completely based on one's strength and there was no luck involved. This was the most commonly used method. Throughout Lu Ming's journey, he had encountered this method more than once or twice. Also, in the battle between you all, no one is allowed to kill. The white-haired old man added. Many people nodded. Each of the last 10 people was extremely talented. If they died because of this, it would be a great loss. That was why there was such a rule. Lu Ming secretly felt that it was a pity. He originally wanted to take this opportunity to deal with Xing He. Okay, now I will decide the order of the battle. The first battle, Xing He against Lu Ming. The white-haired old man announced. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He didn't expect the first battle to be him. Moreover, his opponent was Xing He. Could it be that the white-haired old man did this on purpose? The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled up. This was good too. He would start with Xing He. Whoosh! Lu Ming took a step forward and landed on the battle stage. Xing He's figure also landed on the battle stage. His eyes were filled with a strong fighting spirit. It was as if a flame was burning fiercely. Lu Ming, this time, you will definitely lose. Xing He shouted loudly. His fighting spirit was soaring. You have already lost back then. Now, you are even less of a match for me. Lu Ming shook his head. His voice was silent. Many people were stunned and revealed a look of realization. It seemed that Lu Ming and Xing He had already fought before. Xing He and Lu Ming are both from Yuan Mountain. Naturally, they have already fought before. It seems that Xing He is not a match for Lu Ming. He has already lost before. Many people discussed. That time, Lu Ming just used a trick. The people of the Hung family were indignant and explained. As for the powerhouses of various forces in the Yuan Mountain area, they were watching with rapt attention. Lu Ming and Hung Xinghe both came from the land of Yuan Mountain. In the past, Hung Xinghe had always been known as the #1 prodigy in the land of Yuan Mountain. Since Lu Ming's rise, this phenomenon had changed. Whoever won this battle would be the #1 prodigy of the Yuan Mountain area. Xing He, then I will crush you. I will let you understand the gap between us. Lu Ming said faintly. Bang! Bang! Chapter 21-21. Lu Ming stepped forward, and with every step he took, a river of law appeared on Lu Ming's body. When he took the first step, the law of chaos turned into a river and surrounded Lu Ming's body. When he took the second step, another river of law appeared. It was the river of law of death. Chaos and death, the two strongest rivers of law, surrounded Lu Ming's body and attracted everyone's attention. This was because this was a scene that had never appeared in the Yuan realm since ancient times. It was a miracle. Many people even took out their breath shadow stones to record all of this. Then, a shocking scene appeared. The two rivers of law merged together and turned into a two-colored river of law. It's merged, the two strongest laws have merged together. Someone shouted excitedly. Oh my God, it's heaven-defying, the two strongest laws have really merged together. It's a miracle. Countless people roared, and even many great emperors could not calm down and opened their eyes wide. Two supreme laws fused together. This could be called a legend. At this moment, Yuan Xian, Bao De, and the others were shocked. My hair, why is this guy always so crazy? Monk Wuliang chanted a Buddhist mantra, and his face turned bitter. Even Tian Ming, who had always been calm, had his smile disappear at this moment, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Stellar River was also shocked, and showed a look of disbelief. I'll defeat you. Lu Ming took a step forward, charging toward the Stellar River like a bolt of lightning. Eternal Divine Bell. Stellar River roared. He was unwilling to give up, and he still wanted to fight. A divine bell appeared on his body. There were ancient patterns on it. Clang! The eternal divine bell vibrated, and a terrifying sound of killing erupted. Compared to the past, the power of Stellar River's eternal divine bell was many times stronger. However, now that Lu Ming had merged the law of chaos and the law of death, in addition to his extremely condensed saint power and physical strength, the combat strength that erupted was too strong. Lu Ming ignored Stellar River's attack, and his body did not stop, and he continued to charge. When those sounds of slaughter landed on Lu Ming's body, they were blocked by the two-colored river of laws. They couldn't break through Lu Ming's defense at all. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming approached the Stellar River. Boom! Lu Ming used the Chaos Divine Palm and fused two supreme laws of nature to strike the eternal divine bell in the Stellar River. Dong! The eternal divine bell vibrated violently, releasing terrifying sound waves that swept out in all directions. A few true emperors and grand emperors created a barrier in front of them. Otherwise, they would have been injured. The weaker ones would have died from the shockwaves. Kacha! Cracking sounds could be heard from the eternal godly bell as cracks began to appear on it. The cracks were like a spider web as they covered the entire eternal godly bell. Bang! In the end, the eternal divine bell exploded and turned into specks of light before dissipating. Lu Ming's palm force didn't stop, bombarding Xinghe's body. Xinghe's body was like a scarecrow, flying out and heavily falling to the ground, vomiting large mouthfuls of blood. Defeated. Xinghe was defeated in a single move. Many people were stunned. Is the fusion of two supreme laws so terrifying? Someone's voice was dry and filled with disbelief. Xinghe was a peerless genius who made it into the top 10. Yet, he was defeated in a single move by Lu Ming. The gap between them was shocking and horrifying. Since ancient times, no one in the primordial realm has mastered two supreme laws, and no one has fused them together. No one knows what kind of power the fusion of two supreme laws will have. Someone said solemnly. Everyone took a deep breath. That was indeed the case. Moreover, they thought about how many laws Lu Ming could control. Every time he controlled a river of laws, he would refine his saint force and body. No wonder Lu Ming's combat strength was so strong. They finally understood. You've lost. Lu Ming said indifferently as he looked at Xinghe indifferently. Xinghe vomited another mouthful of blood. He couldn't accept this result. Back then, he was the #1 genius of the primordial realm. He was high and mighty and looked down on others. When he first met Lu Ming, he didn't care about Lu Ming at all. Even if he knew that Lu Ming was the son of chaos, he didn't care. He thought that he was strong enough to suppress all enemies and would not be defeated. But later, in the Lotus world, he was defeated by Lu Ming. However, at that time, Lu Ming had used some kind of secret technique. He always thought that Lu Ming had borrowed external force and that he wouldn't be defeated with his own strength. Over the years, he had been cultivating in seclusion. Especially when he knew about the Battle of the 10 Earths, he cultivated even harder. He wanted to amaze everyone in the Battle of the 10 Earths and completely suppress Lu Ming and trample him under his feet. Even though there were many geniuses this time and it was beyond his imagination, he still managed to make it into the top 10. Unfortunately, his opponent, Lu Ming, performed even more amazingly. Although he hadn't become an emperor, he had mastered two types of strongest laws. And now, he had defeated him in one move. His combat strength was strong enough to look down on him. At this moment, his confidence and belief suffered a great blow. He kept coughing blood. Damn it! Great Emperor Heng roared. Lu Ming was the nemesis of the Heng family. Master is mighty. Master is invincible. Lu Xiangxiang and Ouyang Imoli were making a big fuss. They were even happier than if they had won. Do you want to fight again? Lu Ming continued to step forward. The two-colored river of laws surrounded him like a god descending to the mortal world. Xinghe hadn't admitted defeat yet. If he wanted to fight again, Lu Ming could ruthlessly torture Xinghe. Unfortunately, Xinghe didn't give him the chance. I've lost. Xinghe was very unwilling, but he could only admit defeat. Otherwise, he would only be tortured. I've said it before. If I can defeat you once, I can defeat you twice. You'll never be my opponent in the future. Lu Ming left this arrogant sentence and then flew out of the fighting ring. Xinghe's expression was ugly. He also left the battle stage and took a pill to heal his injuries. This was only his first battle. There were more battles waiting for him. The first battle, Lu Ming wins. The second battle, Bubble versus Yunhaoge. The white-haired old man announced. Many people's eyes immediately lit up. They realized that every battle that followed was very attractive. Bubble and Yunhaoge had both mastered the law of spacetime. Moreover, according to the Great Emperor, Bubble's original form was a divine beast with a great background. Everyone wanted to know what Bubble's original form was. Bubble, do your best. Lu Ming patted Bubble's little head. Don't worry. That guy is weird. I'll definitely beat him up. Chirp chirp. Bubble cried out. Not far away, Yunhaoge's face was full of black lines. What did she mean by him being eccentric? How was he being eccentric? Chapter 21-22. Be my pet beast. We both cultivate the laws of space and time. It's beneficial to both of us. Yunhaoge said again. It's the same the other way around. You can be my pet. Bubble pouted. Yunhaoge's expression darkened. If you don't agree, I'll beat you until you do. Whoosh! Yunhaoge moved. As he moved, the space around him rippled like water. His body seemed to be traveling through space at an incredible speed. Many people saw him move. In the next moment, Yunhaoge's body was already in front of Bubble. He grabbed at Bubble with his hand. Bubble didn't have time to dodge and was caught by the hand. However, with a bang, Yunhaoge caught nothing. The Bubble's figure shattered like an illusion. It was only a mirror image. Bubble had already left. Just as Yunhaoge grabbed Bubble's mirror image, Bubble's figure suddenly appeared behind Yunhaoge. He reached out with his small hand and attacked Yunhaoge. However, Yunhaoge's figure also shattered at the same time. This was also a mirror image. Yunhaoge's figure had also left. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, Yunhaoge's figure appeared behind Bubble. Not only that, dozens of Yunhaoge's figures appeared in other parts of the battle platform as well. This is fun, chirp chirp. Bubble cried. His small figure also disappeared. In the next moment, dozens of figures appeared and pounced at Yunhaoge's figures. In an instant, figures flashed on the battle platform. One figure after another flashed, but they were defeated one after another. In the end, it was discovered that they were all mirror images. Not a single one hit the real body. Many of the weaker cultivators were dazzled by the sight. They couldn't see the real body or the mirror image. They could only see the space rippling like water on the battle platform. One figure after another flashed and attacked. In the blink of an eye, there were dozens and hundreds of figures crisscrossing each other. As time passed, the speed reached an extreme. In the end, the two figures couldn't be seen at all. Lu Ming channeled his saint power into his eyes to capture the two figures. Amazing! Both of them have reached an extremely profound level in the use of the laws of space and time. A true emperor exclaimed. The spacetime laws were extremely mysterious to begin with. Ordinary people would not even be able to touch someone who controlled the spacetime laws. This was the use of space and time, the collision of time and space. It had only been a minute, but the two of them had already exchanged countless blows. Let me break your spacetime laws. Yunhaoge was getting impatient. All of his silhouettes disappeared, leaving only one behind. Boom! The aura on his body became even more violent. The surging power of the world rushed out together with the spacetime law. With him as the center, the space constantly collapsed and exploded. Even time was messed up. Two-star Void Emperor. This was Yunhaoge's current realm. He wanted to crush Bubble with his powerful cultivation base. Bang! Bang! With him as the center, it was as if a level 12 hurricane had been set off, sweeping toward the bubble. Wherever it passed, space exploded, time was thrown into chaos, and the mirror images of the bubble collapsed one by one. Bubble's true body appeared, floating within the chaotic flow of space-time. "Lose for me," Yunhauge said coldly. He took a step forward and appeared in front of Bubble. There was a sword in his hand. This was a battle sword condensed from the space-time force. It was extremely sharp and slashed toward Bubble. Bubble waved her small hand, and a space-time sword condensed in her hand as well, colliding with the opponent. Bang! The void trembled. Bubble's cultivation base was still a little weaker, only a 1-star void emperor. She was not a match for Yunhauge in terms of strength. Instead, she was sent flying by the opponent. After Yunhauge sent Bubble flying, he chased after her and attacked Bubble again. After a few consecutive blows, Bubble was suppressed and fell into a disadvantageous position. Yunhauge used his stronger cultivation base to constantly shatter the surrounding space and disrupt the space-time force, forcing Bubble to face him head-on. "Bubble, you can do it!" Lu Xiang, Ouyang Moli, and the others shouted, cheering for Bubble. "Be my beast pet!" Yunhauge's eyes were cold as he stared at Bubble. "Chirp chirp," Bubble cried out, her eyes filled with anger. Her body emitted a white light, and in the next moment, Bubble directly transformed into her true body. It was a small spiritual mouse. Its fur was snow-white and sparkling, shining with a little luster. It was exceptionally cute. Could it be a space-time spiritual mouse? One of the top 10 beasts, the space-time spiritual mouse. Someone exclaimed, and the scene was in an uproar again. It's a space-time spiritual mouse. Yunhauge's eyes were burning with greed. He could not wait to take Bubble for himself. In the Yuan continent, there were some geniuses who could awaken the bloodlines of the top 10 beasts. The Yuan realm was vast and boundless, and there were many such geniuses. However, those geniuses who had awakened the bloodlines of the top 10 beasts were only humans after all. They had only awakened a little of their bloodline, and the difference between them and the top 10 beasts was too great. There were countless divine beasts in the world, but there were only 10 of the top 10 beasts. Each of the top 10 beasts was unique. In the world, it was impossible for 2 of the top 10 beasts to appear. Each of them was unique. Only when one of the top 10 beasts fell could a new one be born. In ancient times, each of the top 10 beasts was a pinnacle expert in the world. One could imagine how powerful and talented the top 10 beasts were. Now, it was a young space-time spiritual mouse. It was too rare. The space-time spiritual mouse is mine. Yunhauge roared in his heart. The space-time spiritual mouse was born to control space-time. If he could get it, it would be of great help to him. Surrender. Yunhauge continued to attack Bubble. "Human pet, you're the one who's surrendering," Bubbles shouted. Her body glowed, and white rays of light spread out, causing the void to ripple like water again. Whoosh! Bubbles' figure disappeared. She traveled through space-time without leaving a trace. At the same time, the endless space in all directions was shrinking, squeezing toward Yunhauge. "Break!" Yunhauge shouted. His 2-star illusionary emperor cultivation was fully unleashed. Together with his space-time law, he wanted to shatter the surrounding space. However, in the next moment, his expression changed. He felt that his space-time law was being suppressed. What was even more shocking was that his space-time law was being manipulated instead. The space-time law that he unleashed was oppressing him instead. Bang! Yunhauge's body shook violently. The endless space-time power pressed on his body, piercing through his power of the world. His body flew out, and he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. What's going on? Many people were dumbfounded. Just now, Yunhauge clearly had the upper hand. How did the situation turn completely around in the blink of an eye? Yunhauge was injured by Bubble in one move. Chapter 21-23. Yunhauge is being restrained. A great emperor explained. Restrained? Some people were confused, while others were deep in thought. One of the top 10 battle beasts, the space-time spirit mouse, is born with the ability to control space-time. Although Yunhauge is the space-time son, he's still a bit weaker than the space-time spirit mouse. Therefore, he's being restrained in terms of space-time laws. The martial monarch explained once again. Everyone was enlightened. The space-time spirit mouse could only unleash its true strength after revealing its true form. It could use the space-time laws to the fullest, and even control Yunhauge's space-time laws. It could be said that Yunhauge was no longer a match for Bubbles. Whoosh! Bubble traveled through space-time. Her body was small, but wherever she passed, space-time followed. The space wrapped around her like water, and endless space-time power charged at Yunhauge. Yunhauge roared. He was a little unwilling and wanted to flip over. Unfortunately, it was useless. At this moment, he couldn't control the space-time laws effectively. It was extremely difficult to control them. Without the space-time laws, how could he be Bubbles' opponent? He was sent flying again and coughed up blood. With your strength, you want to take me as a pet beast? You're overestimating yourself. I said that you'd be more suitable to be my human pet. Hurry up and kneel down and call me master. Bubble was extremely excited. She traveled through the void and slapped Yunhauge with her little paw. Yunhauge roared in anger. He unleashed his full strength, but it was useless. He couldn't defy the heavens. He was completely suppressed by Bubble. In the end, his face was scratched by Bubble, leaving a claw mark. You have my mark on your face. You're now my human pet. Chirp chirp, chirp chirp, Bubble screamed excitedly. Yunhauge was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. Many people were speechless. They could see that compared to the space-time spirit mouse, Bubble was still in its infancy. She wasn't deliberately humiliating Yunhauge. However, in Yunhauge's eyes, it was a blatant humiliation. He roared in anger, but in the end, he still rushed down the battle platform in humiliation and admitted defeat. He knew that if he continued to fight, he would only be humiliating himself. That guy. Yes, that guy has a good relationship with the space-time spirit mouse. I'll take revenge on him later. Yunhauge was infuriated. He glanced at Lu Ming. He couldn't beat Bubbles, so he could only get back at her from Lu Ming. Lu Ming noticed Yunhauge's gaze and was speechless. Why was this guy staring at him with a face full of resentment? Lu Ming pursed his lips and didn't take it to heart. If this guy didn't know what was good for him, he wouldn't mind giving him a beating when they met again. Bubbles won the match. Whoosh! Bubble transformed back into human form and hung on Lu Ming's neck. Big brother Lu Ming, I'm awesome, right? Chirp. Bubbles pouted. Amazing, amazing. Bubbles is the best. Lu Ming said with a smile. Bubbles is the best. Come, let's sister hug you. Lu Xiang walked over and looked at Bubbles, her eyes shining. Lu Xiang's eyes were twinkling with little stars after seeing Bubbles' original form. Little guy, don't be rude. You have to call me auntie. Chirp. Bubbles pouted and looked at Lu Xiang with disdain. Lu Xiang immediately retreated with a bitter face, causing Chiu Autumn Moon, Huang Ling, and the others to laugh. Everyone looked at Lu Ming with envy in their eyes. Lu Ming not only had 2 Elysian children as his disciples, but he also seemed to have a good relationship with the space-time spirit mouse. Especially Yunhauge, his eyes were full of jealousy. The third match, Yuan Xian against the ancient demon. The white-haired old man announced again. The scene fell silent, and everyone's attention was drawn back. 2 figures stepped into the arena. It was Yuan Xian and the ancient demon. Boom! Without saying much, they directly attacked. A terrifying collision occurred. The son of chaos, Yuan Xian, punched the air with astonishing power. It was like a huge mountain pressing down on the ancient demon. The ancient demon was covered in demonic light. He cultivated the primordial path of demons, and his attack power was astonishing. He clashed fiercely with Yuan Xian. In the first 10 moves, the two were evenly matched. After 10 moves, Yuan Xian did not hold back and unleashed his full strength. 2-star Illusionary Emperor. This was Yuan Xian's strength, and he had already reached the peak of the 2-star Illusionary Emperor. 2 years ago, Yuan Xian had just broken through to the Martial Emperor realm. After cultivating for 2 years, he had already reached the peak of the 2-star Illusionary Emperor realm. This speed was very shocking. Every breakthrough in the Martial Emperor realm was very difficult and required a lot of time. Some martial emperors were trapped in the same realm for hundreds of thousands of years and could not break through. In the end, they died under the lightning tribulation. This was also because Yuan Xian had entered that space that he could break through so quickly. Yuan Xian, who had unleashed his full strength, was extremely terrifying. He could completely suppress the ancient demon. It was not that the ancient demon was weak. He was very strong, and there were not many opponents at the same level as him. Unfortunately, his cultivation was still a little weak. He was only a 1-star Illusionary Emperor, and it was difficult for him to fight against Yuan Xian. After a few moves, the ancient demon coughed out blood and retreated. He was defeated by Yuan Xian. It's a pity that the ancient demon's cultivation is still a little weak. If he reaches the 2-star Illusionary Emperor realm, he might be able to compete with Yuan Xian. The power of the primordial path of demons is really amazing. Some people discussed, looking at the potential of the ancient demon. However, in the next moment, the crowd looked forward to it even more. There were 4 people left: Tianming, Wu Liang, Baoda and Xia Ke. These 4 people were extremely terrifying geniuses. 2 years ago, they had already broken through to the Martial Emperor realm. Next, the 4 of them were going to fight. It would definitely be a battle of the peak. Wu Liang, Xia Ke. The white-haired old man announced. The crowd immediately became nervous. Wu Liang was a Buddhist genius who had suddenly risen in recent years. He had displayed unparalleled talent. He had been bragging to the outside world that he was the reincarnation of the Buddha God and that his previous life was an unparalleled almighty. Although his character was sometimes criticized, his talent and combat strength were real. He stood at the peak of Yuan continent. As for Xia Ke, he was a real dragon who had cultivated the primordial path of demons. He had an unparalleled demonic body and was also incomparably powerful. Who would win? The crowd was filled with anticipation. 2 figures stepped into the fighting ring. I have hair. Benefactor, you and I are fated. Why don't you be my guardian divine beast? Wu Liang said with a straight face. Monk, are you insulting me? I will twist your head off. Xia Ke's face was ferocious. Xia Ke came from the land of divine beasts. The land of divine beasts was home to various powerful divine beasts such as real dragons, phoenixes and cheilants. He was the #1 genius in the land of divine beasts. Now, Wu Liang wanted to take him in as his guardian divine beast. How could he not be angry? I have hair. Benefactor, you want to twist my head off as soon as you open your mouth. Your killing intent is too strong. You should return to Buddhism and refine your killing intent. Wu Liang said with a straight face. Lu Ming and Long Chen despised him. This monk was definitely up to no good. Refine your head. Die.